I started this home by spending a lot of time just by looking at the floor plan. Not drawing yet, not thinking about the materials of the furniture layout, just trying to understand the bones of the space. When you do this long enough, you stop asking what you can add. You start asking what you can remove. And very early on, it became very clear that the layout of the unit felt visually tight. Walls were doing their job structurally, but not emotionally. They were breaking the flow of light, compressing the living spaces, and also creating boundaries that didn't really needed to be there. Hi, I'm Alvin, and I'm the designer of this house. The study stood out immediately. It was functional, but it felt like a missed opportunity. So we decided to hack it to let the space drive a larger reconfiguration of the home. The single move allowed the unit to evolve from a conventional 4-room layout into a 3-room plus 1 configuration that prioritizes spatial generosity over strict room count. I didn't want openness at the expense of privacy, and I didn't want flexibility to feel messy or improvised. That's where concealed doors became important. Doors usually announce themselves. They interrupt walls, they create visual noise. Here, the idea was for doors to disappear, to become part of the architecture itself. When they are open, the space flows uninterrupted. When they are closed, they don't feel like an afterthought. The kitchen table, dining table, built-in furniture, they all sit on these reference lines. They establish rhythm, proportion, and visual order. You may not consciously notice them, but your body does. When things align, the space stops asking for attention. It allows you to just be in it. The architectural language is intentionally restrained. It draws from Scandinavian modern and Japandi influences, but I didn't want it to feel like a style exercise. It is more of clarity, warmth, and restraint. I wanted the home to feel timeless, but sometimes that would feel dated in 5 or 6 years. I've always believed that materials should improve with time, not fight it. That's why veneer was chosen over laminate. We spent a lot of time sourcing and matching veneer panels, especially across large surfaces. Book matching was used where possible to maintain continuity. Stone followed the same philosophy. Granite was selected for its durability, density, and low maintenance. Lighter tones create a calm, neutral backdrop for daily life, for movement, clutter, and personal objects. Details were handled with a lot of care. Bullnose edges softened the spaces, both visually and physically. But texture brings life. It gives light something to interact with. Beyond the material and layout, this home was always about how it feels to live in. Lighting probably had the biggest impact on how the home feels. We avoided conventional recessed down lights almost entirely. Instead, we used geometric Lego lighting and track lighting to control direction and intensity. The living wall was designed as a future-proof element, not affixed to a single function. It can evolve with artwork, objects, or changing needs over time. One of the most personal elements in the home is the Vesta board. It's simple, but it becomes a place where messages are exchanged between parents and children. Those small everyday interactions are what makes a house feel alive. From a construction standpoint, this project demanded a lot of discipline. Once the design intent was clear, everything had to be coordinated tightly, architecturally, carpentry, lighting, and services. The sliding door was one of the most technical demanding elements. Thickness calculations had to be exact, especially around bullnose concave edges to avoid structural failure. Timeline control became one of the biggest challenges throughout the build. But what ultimately held everything together was trust. Trust in the process. Trust between the client, the architect, the project manager, and the craftsman. There was a shared willingness to take risks and an equal commitment to execute them properly. This home isn't about perfection, it's about intention, about calm, about creating a space that supports daily life in a quiet, deliberate way. A home that feels considered but never over-designed.